Hello and welcome to the CXOToday Fireside Chat. My name is L. Subramaniam. I'm the publisher of CXOToday.com. I've often wondered, how is it that you are 70 years late into entering an industry and still want to be a major global player? How is it that you missed several milestones in the past but still want to make a dent in the global markets? How do you create a semiconductor ecosystem in India? Given the fact that we are 70 years late into this business, given the fact that there are much larger companies, established companies, which have invested billions of dollars into the semiconductor ecosystem, what are those challenges? What are those impediments that we have to overcome? More importantly, what are the key advantages that we have? Is it an Indian domestic market? Is it the fact that we have a huge amount of talent pool in this country? Is it the fact that we already are developing semiconductor ecosystem parts in this country for other companies? Addressing all these questions and more, I have great pleasure in welcoming Shilpa Singhai, who is the Managing Director at Accenture for High-Tech Systems.
Hi Shilpa. First of all, thank you for joining me on the CXOToday editorial on the sidelines of this event. I went through all the panel discussions and I heard you. The question that I asked myself, and which is what I want your feedback on, is that when we talk about building a self-reliant semiconductor ecosystem, and given the fact that we are starting off pretty much later in the day, in your opinion today, what are those elements that go around in building that self-reliant ecosystem for semiconductors in India?
Thank you for having me, Subbu. And that is a great question, I must say. I think while we may be late in the game, it's still the right direction that we are moving in. In terms of self-reliance, in the sequence of things that is to come, some of these elements that we have got commitments on, whether it is the fabs or the OSATs, will bring the demand also, will bring the ecosystem partners that will make it more India conducive to India growth and India ecosystem development as well. Now, when it comes to self-reliance, what we want to also focus on is key levers like production on application side that is already a big market in India. We spoke about automotive, industrial, consumer electronics, where the consumption and demand is already coming from India and there is heavy imports that we do in those sectors. So productization focus in those application segments is very important. Sourcing from India-made, make in India, India-made products and building on these ecosystems will become a key lever for self-reliance going forward. Also, I think what is important and which other states are doing, it's many states like Karnataka, Gujarat, and now Maharashtra with one of the important OSAT plants announced here, as well as Telangana, are coming forward, encouraging electronics value chain to set up shop there, giving them conducive incentivization for them to step forward and invest in the entire value chain and not just only semiconductor chip fab or OSAT. So that ecosystem, when it comes up, is going to give a big fillip to other suppliers also and associated suppliers as well. There are also some global investments that I see are going to make us, while they are also going to make us more self-reliant. Applied Materials, for example, has put up the India Validation Center we discussed in the event today. That is a very important hub for the R&D in the equipment side of things. That becomes important part of the supply chain, the value chain that we need for semicon. Some of these suppliers who are going to emerge from India are going to use those facilities and incentives that are there currently, and hopefully then over the course of 5 to 10 years we will have a very robust ecosystem well within India to support the self-reliant dream.
Accenture in semiconductors, I mean, that's a story that we haven't heard in India for many years now. And suddenly you have a spate of investments in semiconductors in India. So, question is, what is it that you're positioning yourself as in the Indian semiconductor ecosystem?
So Accenture started its silicon design and engineering services practice around 5 years ago. We've made 3 acquisitions in this space: XLMax, Sientra, and Extreme EDA. And while all of this has happened on the design and engineering services side, we've always worked with most of the electronics and semiconductor companies around the world in their greenfield projects, with our expertise around capital projects advisory, supply chain management, reinvention of their technology architectures, as well as workforce development offerings. On the other hand, if you look at some of the ongoing relationships that we've had with some of these global firms, there is a big fillip on building capacities, both on the equipment side as well as on the chip side. And we've seen that our clients are very, very keen to work with us to reduce cycle times, to improve operations, to streamline such that there is more capacity built out for all the demand that we are seeing. AI is going to push. So I think there is significant amount of work that needs to be done, and now that Indian semiconductor industry is also at an inflection point and large projects are rolled out, it is the right time to work with them.
So I heard 2 themes, in the conference. One was global and domestic, and you yourself mentioned global demand as being a key driver. And the other was product and manufacturing. So I'll take the first one first. In terms of global and domestic, and I'm not using the word versus domestic, where do you think is the domestic demand going to be the driver for semiconductors as against the global demand being already very high?
So I think global demand is evident because we are working on the whole China plus sentiment, or basically the fragmented global supply chain that is there for semiconductors. India is now putting its foot forward to capture some of that market and wants to anyway have a seat at the table now beyond China. What investments we've been attracting, they also come in partnership with some of these established supply, basically value chain players, who will also create the global demand and who will become part of the consumption story. As far as domestic demand is concerned, yes, that is an element that will take some time to catalyze. Steps are being taken in the right direction. From an R&D and productization perspective, we are moving forward. From looking at what we do, the whole $120 billion electronics industry that we have, we heard today that we have only about 40% manufacturing done in India. The rest is largely assembly, and 10-15% really end-to-end make in India. So I think that demand is there. However, the value chain that supports that demand for that to be made in India will really be the big trigger for domestic demand for semiconductors per se.
But in this whole thing, again, I'm going back to the fact that there are global players, very large global players, right? Now, at this stage, what do you think are the key challenges that we face? Is it capital? Is it R&D? Is it manpower? Is it all of them?
A large part of the capital problem for the next 3 to 5 years is now looking like it is solved to some extent with the right incentivization by the government, both states and center. After 3 years, we may hit that struggle again, but at least for the next 3 to 5 years, both the industrial houses who have committed to certain capital outlays, as well as the government initiatives that have added to the capital in this sector, is going to maybe solve for the capital problem at this point in time. The challenges really are on the implementation side, to be honest. Now, partnerships and technology have also enabled that we have access to technology side, but really from a perspective of putting together the first fab in India or a very high-end OSAT in India is a challenge which is transactional across the entire value chain of or even I would say that entire life cycle of creating a plant itself. I have heard discussions with our industry colleagues who are saying that a challenge on very basic things as well, like MEP, and I think we'll tide over some of those challenges. It is not so much a question of talent there, but finding the right person at the right place and the right time. The bigger challenge, yes, is to scale the skilling. There is abundance of talent in India. Availability is not a challenge. But now we've seen a burgeoning demand for talent suddenly in this space, and the entire demand, if you look at it, whether it is on the design side or the equipment side or the fab or testing side, it is quite fragmented, and it requires very different types of skills in each part of this value chain, and hence to scale the skilling of people and specialization that is required for each of these fragments is going to be a bigger challenge to my mind.
But it's always been quality versus quantity, right? I mean, what I hear you saying is that we have the numbers, and at the top end we may even have the quality, but if you're going to scale up, then the numbers have to be of that great quality that's right at the top. How are we going to make that happen? Because that's going to call for a change in education policy, your R&D policy, all kinds of infrastructural stuff.
I think the ecosystem comes together here. There are two things that I want to talk about here. One is that industry bodies are playing a very significant role, whether it is India Electronics Association as well as VLSI Society of India. They have taken up the agenda of skilling and skilling right, as well as many of the institutes today. We signed an MOU with IIT Bombay, SEMIX. They have also taken up the task to further foster the skilling of India in this space. However, I think we also have to look at some of the technology solutions. There are very well, mature platforms that can help whatever current content and coursework that we have, and can digitize the entire learning over a period of time very quickly. And that is one of the important levers. Using technology to skill at scale, I think, is one of the very important levers that we've got to use going forward.
This, I think I spoke to you earlier also, that the skills shortage is not just in India, it's global. And the US industry body has already predicted about 70,000 for next year.
They are now making investments that will require all that kind of attracting of talent. But India has its own journey, I can see, in parallel. So we will have enough space for growth and development of talent within India as well.
So what do you want to do? What are you positioning yourself in the semiconductor, as a value add consultant or as a player by yourself?
We are going to go in with a consulting first offering. That is because we want to make sure that there is value added to the end business objectives. Since there are capital outlays that are announced, some of the important offerings around capital projects advisory, manufacturing, analytics, digital first manufacturing come very naturally to us. There is also with our design services and design acquisitions that we made, there is also a lot of focus on design to productization, which applies not only to core silicon companies but also to several end market companies like automotive and industrial consumer electronics, who are setting up their own teams, can use our Accenture services for design to productization. There is always a stronghold that Accenture has had in technology, so we are always the first choice when it comes to any enterprise technology rehaul or upgrade.
And finally, what is your feeling about this whole journey that you are beginning now? Is it cautiously optimistic, very optimistic, cautious, or hopeful?
We're very optimistic in this space. We have the right set of investments from Accenture Global as well as India units, and we're very hopeful to work with our clients to make them grow in India, create that market for India. And moreover, there is a lot of action that is there among the government institutes and government bodies right now on this. We're very happy to work very closely in policy making and in institutionalizing some of the incentivization that has taken place in this space, working alongside the government as well.
Shilpa, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate that. I know you're very busy, but thanks for talking to CXO today. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Subbu, for having me. It has been my pleasure.